I know it's been a while since I've done Grab, been super happy with it, even though it's a series that's not been as hot as it used to. Still happy with it, and all the characters I've covered, I felt I put a ton of effort to it, very happy.
You must look towards the darkest depths of Grapplers, the one that you hate with your being. Let your inner demons take over.
Yes. I must let the hate flow through me.
He is so fucked.
My loyal fans! Hey, hey!
任務を遂行する。終わりだ。
Talking about one of the characters that I cannot stand with a passion, I'll need to tell you how Samurai Shodown 5 was played. Samsho has always been a fundies based fighting game, playing very slow and looking for your pokes here and there to build up big damage. Pressure sequences don't really lead to snowballs, but landing your hits constantly really does. Very different from the modern Samsho, this game had 5 buttons, 4 for attacking and 1 for a unique action. Ranging from light to heavy and kick, the unique action allowed you to do multiple things such as meditate, duck, slide and short hop. Samsho combos are very short, it's usually a button into a special move at best, and for some they actually just don't get combos, they get one hit and that's it. And the more that one gets hit, they unlock the super mechanic, Rage. Rage will give you a super when it's maxed out, you'll do more damage, and on certain special moves they become enhanced, doing way more than it would before. Rage Explosion though, will activate Rage, and it'll give you it for a set period of time, however after doing so you don't have access to it for the rest of the match, making this a last play gambit to try and make a comeback. And with your supers from Rage you can also disarm your opponent, making it so they don't have a weapon to defend themselves. They'll take chip damage and your weapon will no longer recoil on block. Very scary. However, if one was to step away from his rage and become calm with his inner self, you will achieve the state of nothingness. This is a unique mechanic where if you meditate to make it so you have 0 rage when you hit a certain health threshold, you'll gain the state of nothingness. Activating this will slow down time, giving you crazy combos to go wild with, and a final super move called the Ishin, which is in the modern Samurai Shodown. That is an instant invulnerable tool to slash through the opponent for the dub. Very cool mechanics, but now that you know the baseline mechanics, it's time to talk about the character of today. Man who I detest with all my might, the demon cannibal, Kusaregedo. Hope I said that right. Gedo, as they call him in the community for short, is a disgusting, vile creature. Looking at this man, you get the feeling of uncertainty, like this is a character you do not want to be near. Well, he used to be a man but turned into a yokai demon, punishing him for the evil decisions he made as a man, but doing so also punishing mankind. He fights using his arm, which is a mixture of mangled flesh, of course bones sticking out with sharp ends. He'll attack using everything in his body, and it's very disgusting indeed. He uses his arm to skewer his opponents or maybe clutch them using the 2 ends. He'll attack in very disgusting creative ways, like vomiting on the ground to limit your movement, sending his head flying at you for a super. He even summoned demon hands to hold his prey for him to get a quick snack. He's pretty disgusting and intimidating to look at, and that was kind of the whole vibe that the developers were going for. Could argue, from the point of view of a zoner, this is what all grapplers look like. It's the evil embodiment of grapplers where you just feel grotesque and disgusting and you don't want them to approach you because they're just so vile to look at. But in terms of story, it's a very morbid one. Disgustingly morbid. Cue slideshow. Gedo was once a man who lived with his daughter Bakina, which literally translates to impossible in Japanese. I think it's supposed to be a play on the fact that he was a cannibal and his favourite thing to eat was children. So it's kind of impossible that she would be alive. That's my guess. He would eat people, killing them, but he preferred to eat children, which again, very morbid, but eventually he was turned into a yokai demon, Kusaregedo, as you see here. This was his divine punishment, and becoming a demon made it so that he had an infinite hunger for human flesh that he could not crave. He could never satiate, no matter how many he ate, and he roamed village to village, causing massacres all around. Pretty messed up story for a character so vile, and then it continues on. Why did I hate him, right? Because this isn't really a game that I played in my childhood, so looking at this guy, I could kind of just ignore him and not really hate him, right? Why did I hate him? A bit of a Panda story, I suppose. When I was a young fella, I was very into fighting games. I was getting into them, and I just understood what it meant to play Grapplers. Grapplers were cool to me. Eventually, I found out what Mugen was, and Mugen had it so you could put any fighting game character that you wanted in a version of a fighting game. It's very mad, it's cool. And there was a version that had it so there was a ton of grapplers. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like ages ago. I had so many grapplers to mess about with, and I really enjoyed it. And eventually he caught my eye as a grappler. I didn't know anything about him, so I decided to research him, and I ended up finding out his fatality clip, and it was... yeah, it stuck with me. This fatality kind of horrified me for a while. Couldn't sleep right with the idea of a yokai demon coming to fucking eat me. And I do think this was the intention of the character, to be very vile and morbid, and you just feel disgusted looking at him, even talking about him. Because of that, researching him, he really stuck with me as a character that was not one to play. Just horrendous. Really put me off, if I'm honest, for playing Samurai Shodown. And I was further pissed off when I got into the series. I really enjoyed playing Earthquake, and to find out in the game that he was introduced, Earthquake wasn't in it. So it felt like he replaced my boy, and he was just vile. Vile. Well, time to get into his toolkit and why he's so disgusting. As always, we begin by looking at the movement, and it's a classic for every big body grappler. He's extremely slow. His walk speed is probably the slowest I've ever seen on a grappler, maybe next to Snow White, really not moving anywhere. But this fella was a top tier, so the movement can't be that bad, and we're shown exactly why, just like that. He had very good burst movement. Burst movement is where you do something in a quick action, and then you just use it, and you're going and you're gone. Running, let him roll out on the opponent, approaching very quickly, and he can kind of cancel it at any time, making it kind of a scary approach. And one of his best movement techs, and this is what a lot of the players abused, his slide. His slide would avoid so many attacks to get into threaten the strike throw. He was a menace mostly because of his slide and mixed with his command grab, but we'll get into the command grab later. And he also did have a special move where he would lift his gut up. Oh Jesus. Lift his gut up to avoid being attacked and get right into threaten strike throw. This was a bit more niche, but again, it was to sell the burst movement in the character and just don't like it. Those buttons were alright. It was mostly like big body buttons where they reached very far and did high damage. His heavies were only really used for punishing, not really a neutral tool unlike Earthquake. But the main goal with this character was to bully your way in using your lights. Your lights were very staggerable with this character. Mix that with the kicks as well, you've got many avenues to do tick throws. Best way to put it, his normals were only scary if you were block punishable. But on hit or on block, he wasn't really that much of a menace. He was doing really low damage to try and get the throw. And this leads into why you want to play the big fella. Why do you want to play a grappler? The command grab. That is the be end all end all of every grappler, and for him, it was very strong. Command grab always did a fixed amount of damage, even with scaling, rage, or character health. It was always do the same amount, which was near 40%. Man, I didn't realize that was Potemkin under all that body horror. That's insane. Do go back to full screen, okay, but the oddest thing about this throw, it's not an input that you would expect. It wasn't a half circle, it wasn't a half circle tap forward, and it wasn't a full circle. It was forward, back, down, up. You can't spin the stick to do this grab. You have to do forward, back, down, up. There's a lot of buffer methods to do this, but I thought this was the most awkward command grab I've ever done. The best way to get in to use the command grab was to buffer it during the slide, as we showed earlier. The slide is fantastic. That was how he did it. And the command grab also came out in frame 1, making it insanely fast on defense and on offense. There was one issue with the system mechanics of Samurai Shodown. Jumping didn't have a start up, meaning you jumped on one frame. You would jump on the frame you pressed up. Doing the command grab all of a sudden became super difficult, as there was not really a window of opportunity to do it, so you had to get really good at buffering it. Otherwise, you're not doing this raw. Almost impossible. The other specials were actually kinda neat for design philosophy, but were ultimately disgusting when actually used. One special I do think is pretty cool is the Demon Hands. He would summon Demon Hands to grab the opponent, and this is an unblockable, you have to jump it, allowing Gedo to get in and use a heavy slash for the punish. Very good. It was reactable as hell though, so you weren't really catching people off guard with this, but it was a good reaction check to throw out here and there. Have a cool gimmick though. However, the vomit is very minging. It is very, very minging. This was used on normals that weren't safe, so if he did a medium and it was blocked, he would cancel immediately into the vomit to kinda stay safe and give the opponent an area on the ground that they weren't allowed to approach on anymore. You have to respect it, or if you went into it and got hit or had to block it, it was Gedo's turn to start threatening that strike throw again. Lastly, he had a taunt special that he could only use one time. And yeah, this was a very disgusting move. If you did this input, which is pretty mad, not easy to do in the moment, he would reach into his backhand and well, that is pretty fucking rancid. Reaching into his ass to toss shit at the opponent and then laugh afterwards as if he's a genius. My goodness, this guy is just so fucking disgusting. So his normals were neat and his specials are just bogging. Really disgusting. His combos didn't exist. He didn't have any form of combos whatsoever. The only combo he could do was Demon Hands and Heavy. That was it. It was extremely simple. The only learning curves you had were learning how to use the game's system mechanics and his command grab. Everything else was bog standard. Simple. Super would send his head flying across the screen as a projectile and disarm the opponent. Pretty good as a weapon disarm technique, as it allowed you to disarm them from a whip punish. Let's say they went for a projectile, super projectile, interrupt them, run your offense. That was it. And he also had a super command grab, but holy, look at that input. SNK, what in the fuck are some of your inputs sometimes? And he was a top tier that was very strong, not broken, but certainly a standout character. This comes into the point of today's video. A lot of people tend to play the top tiers when they're a tier whore. However, that wasn't the case. He was not popular among top tier players. They would rather play other characters. And Grapplers also tend to be one of the most popular characters to play, Potemkin being the best example of that, as he is in the top 3 popularity in Strive right now. And Zangief is in the top 5 from what I remember. And this guy was popular to both the Grappler demographic and to the top tier demographic. And this kind of proves the point of today's video, which I know I've left it super late. Design is important. If your character functions in a fun way, your design needs to reflect that. If the design does not reflect that, it puts you off, and Gedo is the perfect example of this. He never came back for the modern Samurai Shodown, he was left out of that, and in Samurai Shodown 5 and 6, those were his last appearances as a character. Because of the character's design, he had the opposite effect on what would happen on people who play top tiers and people who play grapplers. They didn't play him, but this guy was a bona fide grappler, understandably, 100%ably, a grappler. But ultimately, Gedo's design is something that I do think is great. I'm not gonna lie, I think his design is very good, but not as a playable character. Gedo's design is something that strikes me as a scary enemy in a horror game or something like that, not as a playable character. Maybe if we were playing a horror fighting game, he would actually be a perfect pick, but we're not doing that. So he just kind of stands out as a character in a roster where nobody would want to play him. Another lesson in today's video, don't fucking replace Earthquake! He's goated! I love that fat fuck! I do think the design of a grappler that's long reaching and has multiple ways to avoid your attacks through burst movement is a great idea. Tezok's a great example of it, El Blaze is a great example of it, but in today's video, I'm left disgusted and I don't want to see it again. But that is the end of today's video. I wanted to do a grab where I was a bit more hateful, I suppose. Usually we've been doing a ton of grapplers that I genuinely love or have a design that pulls me in a way that I didn't expect, like Caloman for example. But in today's video, I kind of want to bring up some childhood memories of a grappler that put me off the game to such a disgusting degree. Again, I didn't play that game. I didn't play Sam Show 5 because of his existence. I'm not even lying. I might sound like a chud for not liking a clearly unique design in a fighting game, but for me, it just It puts me off, and I can imagine this is the case for many others. But if you guys enjoyed, be sure to like and sub, hype it up, and tell me who you want me to cover. I saw a recommendation for Yomi Hustle, so that might come up soon. Again, no highlight video, because I don't want to look at this character anymore. And no Grappler church from either. I don't want him there. Not a bit. I don't want him there. He's going in the Grappler bin. But peace out, guys. Hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See ya.